You know that crown. I mean, you see it everywhere, right? On the wrist of a CEO, splashed across a magazine cover. It's pretty much become the global shorthand for success, for luxury, for making it. But here's the thing. Behind that super iconic logo is a story that is way more complex and, honestly, way more fascinating than you probably think. So let's get into it. We're going to deconstruct the powerful myth of Rolex and uncover its really surprising reality.
This is where the story usually begins, right? The idea of a Rolex as the ultimate family heirloom. This rock-solid piece of quality that you pass down to your kids and they pass it down to theirs. It's this really powerful, kind of romantic notion. And look, the quality is absolutely real. But that idea, it's not even close to the whole story.
Yeah, because what if that whole romantic idea of just buying a piece of timeless quality, what if it isn't simple at all? What if the whole game is actually rigged against you from the start, designed to be confusing, frustrating, on purpose? Well, that's the big question we're digging into.
All right, first things first, we have to understand where this whole Rolex mystique even comes from. And it wasn't some slick ad campaign cooked up in a boardroom. It was literally forged in the most extreme conditions on the planet through a whole series of genuine, game-changing breakthroughs. Okay, so this is where the legend really starts to build. Back in 1926, boom, they dropped the Oyster, the world's first truly waterproof watch. And to prove it wasn't just talk, a year later they strapped it to a woman swimming the English Channel. It came out of the water working perfectly. Then they invent the perpetual rotor, which, by the way, is basically the blueprint for almost every automatic watch we have today. And they didn't stop there. Highest point on Earth? Yep, they went up Everest. Deepest point on Earth? They sent a watch to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. I mean, this isn't marketing fluff. This is a reputation built on being genuinely, ridiculously tough.
So that's the history. But that hardcore reputation for quality, that's not just something from the past. It is happening right now, inside their factories, with a level of obsession that is just kind of mind-blowing, actually. 1 year. Just let that sink in for a second. 1 year. In our world of instant everything, they spend a whole year making one watch. And that dedication, that incredibly slow, careful process, that's where the quality really comes from. And this is exactly why it takes so long. You can think of Rolex as this fortress of quality. They don't just buy parts and stick them together. No, they make pretty much everything themselves. They use this special type of steel that's way tougher against rust. So tough they had to rebuild their whole factory just to work with it. They have their own foundry, like a place to melt and mix gold to create their own special alloys. They've got actual science labs with electron microscopes and teams of gem experts picking out every single stone. And the heart of the watch, the movement, every single one is put together by hand. It's this total control over every little step that gives them this fanatical, almost insane level of quality that basically nobody else can touch. Okay, so let's recap. The quality is legit. The history is legit. But, and this is a big but, if they're making something like 1 million watches a year, why is it basically impossible to just walk into a store and buy the one you actually want? Well, my friends, this is where we get into the really controversial part of the story. It's called the scarcity game.
So what is manufactured scarcity? It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a strategy where a company intentionally keeps supply tight. It's not because they can't make more, they do it on purpose to create this vibe of exclusivity. It's basic human psychology, right? The harder something is to get, the more we want it, and the more we're willing to pay to have it.
And this strategy has created this really weird 2-track system for buying a Rolex. Okay, track 1, you go to an authorized dealer, or AD. They sell the watches at the official price, which sounds great. The catch, they get almost none of the popular models you actually want, so they have these so-called interest lists, which are basically wait lists that can be years long. And to get anywhere on that list, you're often expected to buy a bunch of other stuff first, less popular jewelry, other watches you don't really want. It's a whole game. Then there's track 2, the gray market. This is basically the free market solution. You can find any Rolex you want and you can have it on your wrist tomorrow. No games, no wait lists. The price? Well, it's the real market price. That means you're paying their retail price plus a huge premium on top. And that premium is basically the fee you pay to bypass all the nonsense at the AD.
So here's the key takeaway, the thing you have to understand. All that frustration, the empty display cases you see in the store, the multi-year waiting lists, that feeling that you just can't get one, that's not a bug. It's not a problem they're trying to fix. It's a feature. It is the system working perfectly.
All right, so you have this incredibly clever system, right? Top tier quality mixed with artificial scarcity that brings in billions and billions of dollars, which naturally leads to a pretty big question. Just who is profiting from all this? Who's getting rich off this multi-billion-dollar machine? You'd probably guess, what, some secretive billionaire family, or maybe a giant luxury corporation, or a bunch of Wall Street shareholders. Well, the real answer is probably the last thing you'd ever expect. It's one of the biggest twists in the entire business world.
Are you ready for this? The company is owned by a nonprofit, a charity. Yeah, Rolex, the ultimate icon of capitalism and wealth, is owned 100% by a charitable foundation. Wild, right? It's called the Hans Wilsdorf Foundation, set up by the founder way back in the day. Now, because it's a charitable trust in Switzerland, Rolex pays zero corporate taxes. And all the profits, they can only go two places, either right back into Rolex to improve the watches in the company, or they get donated to charities. We're talking environmental causes, science, the arts, you name it. And this structure does something else that's super important. It means Rolex can never be sold, never be bought by another company, and never have to answer to shareholders. They can just focus on the long game forever.
Okay, so with all that in mind, the crazy market, the even crazier ownership, let's circle all the way back to that first idea we talked about, the myth of Rolex as this super safe, can't-lose investment.
Let's actually break down the price of one of these watches. First, you've got the official retail price. That's what Rolex says it costs. But then you've got the gray market price, what people are actually paying. And that price went absolutely insane, hitting a massive peak back in 2022. That giant space between the retail price and the market price, that's called the premium. And listen closely, because that premium is where all the danger, all the financial risk is hiding.
Because what happens when a bubble bursts? That premium didn't just shrink, it collapsed. Prices for the hottest watches from Rolex and other top brands, they crashed. We're talking a drop of 30, even 40% from that peak. Ouch. Anyone who bought at the top of the hype got a very, very painful lesson in what goes up must come down.
And this really gets to the heart of it. When you pay that massive gray market price for a modern Rolex, you're not really investing in the watch. I mean, the watch itself is amazing, the quality's there. What you're actually doing is gambling. You're gambling on the premium, which is just a number driven by hype and what other people are willing to pay. It's pure speculation.
See, a Rolex isn't a safe haven investment like gold. It's something different. Economists have a name for it, a Veblen good. It's a weird kind of luxury product where the more expensive it gets, the more people want it. Why? Because its real job is to be a status symbol, to show off that you have wealth. So, Veblen goods do well when the economy is booming and people feel rich. Gold, on the other hand, does well when people are scared and the economy is tanking. They are literally the opposite of each other.
So where does all this leave us? Well, what we have is a brand that's just full of these amazing contradictions. Let's try and put all the pieces together and really look at the Rolex paradox.
Okay, so on one hand, you have the myth. It's a rock-solid investment. But the reality? It's a Veblen good, and you're really betting on a super volatile market premium. The myth, it's a simple, straightforward luxury purchase. The reality? Nope, it's a complicated two-tiered system that's intentionally designed to be frustrating. The myth, it's this shining icon of hypercapitalism. The reality? It's literally owned by a tax-free charity. And finally, the myth is that they're just so popular you can't get one, when the reality is you can't get one because that scarcity is manufactured. It's the whole point.
So that brings us to the big final question. After we've peeled back all these layers, after separating the myth from the reality, where does a Rolex's true value really come from? Is it in the watch itself, this incredible hand-built machine that will probably outlive all of us? Is it in the status, what it says about you when you wear it? Or is the real value in the story, this wild, contradictory, and just undeniably fascinating story behind that little crown? I'll leave that one for you to think about.